My name is Conor Heffernan. I'm from Leading Edge Group. I lead the AI consultations and implementations. Leading Edge has been around for just celebrated their 30th anniversary. Do a lot of lean transformation and consulting, later into green and digitization, and now into AI, which is another tool in the toolbox for organizational transformation. There's a lot of places or a lot of topics we could talk about in terms of AI in construction. You've probably heard some good speakers today on the various points. But I think we'll start on the one that is on most people's lips, which is AI robots, will they kill us all? So, actually, I don't know. There's a non-zero chance, but we're going to need a lot of underground shelters, which is a construction boom. So, silver cloud, or silver lining in every cloud and so on. Well, why do I start here? It's because the biggest problem with AI is it's fuzzy and it's vague and everybody has preconceptions around it. It's either oversold, it's underperforming, etc. So let's start with leadership in an organization. Now, I'm constantly surprised, and I shouldn't be, by the number of executives that we speak to who have no personal experience of using AI. But then that shouldn't be surprising because it's like 10, 40, 50, 10% of people use AI every day in their work, 40% have used it, and that's a really big curve when you think about it, and 50% haven't. Now that 10% is coming up. But it's the whole perception about it. And without that having that personal connection, that aha moment, it's hard to see what the benefits are. If you compare AI to lean, if a company announces we're going to do a lean process review on our organization, nobody runs screaming from the room worried about their jobs, but actually it's the same intention. Okay? Situational awareness. So one of the things we find useful, and we do this as part of our discovery engagements, and you can do this yourself if you have, ChatGPT or Perplexity or something, you can very quickly say, give me the short, medium, and long-term impacts of AI on my business model, my sector, what's going to happen. And it's very important. And you get this tapestry or this mosaic of all of the areas of your business that AI can impact. What happens if you try and have a conversation, if you're trying to be the one to raise, we should do more in AI without that kind of backdrop? Well, you'll probably get something like, well, my door is always open, come along if you have an idea. But if you have a background of what's happening in the industry, regardless of what we do here, it creates an urgency in looking into this. Okay. Treading gently, understanding where people are at is the first part of that. So it's the education, and maybe it's doing one-on-one sessions with people in your organization. Maybe it's doing lunch demos and so on, having a couple of case studies that just show what's happening out there. And what you want ideally out of this is for the leadership to be giving an open and clear mandate that we will consider AI as part of our overall innovation. And that's important because without that, the innovators don't feel if they have permission to risk trying AI. Other people will be uncertain if it's a good thing or a bad thing or a risky thing, and so on. So I'll talk about, we did work with Strata Digital recently. They had decided to use Copilot as their in-house AI system. And they brought us in ostensibly for training, but actually what it turned into was like a quasi-consultation. And they did it in a really good way. The leadership had elected people from every department as stakeholders to sit down in this steering committee. And they went and with our help, they looked at what are the use cases that we're actually going to use this for. And they came up with a whole raft of them, like all around the tender analysis and preparation. So when a tender comes in, you can strip out the key dates. You can do ballpark estimation, comparing the incoming tender to the previous proposals you've returned, and so on, and putting the whole documents together and scoring it. And they also had some cases in the design side. But again, what they did was they did it as a leadership team. Look, we're doing this, we're actively doing this. It's okay to look at this as a form of innovation. And they're now turning around to each of their teams and rolling that out. And one of the things about this organization was they already had an AI person on staff. They had a CEDAR graduate, the National AI Center. So it's not like they didn't have the capabilities in-house. What they needed help with was how do we bring this out into the organization, okay? And similar to executives, the other one that surprises me is even technical departments. You would think the software guys would know what AI is doing. It's not necessarily the case. They are busy with the day jobs. So don't assume that is always there in the background. So once you've prepared the ground The next thing that I've seen being done right and wrong in organizations is this has to be a business-led initiative, not a technology-led initiative, okay? So we always start with going across the organization and asking people to call out what are their bottlenecks to growth at the moment. Where are they being hampered? Where's the quality, the volume, etc. If you don't do that, and with all respect to my technical colleagues, okay, if AI lands on the CTO's desk, you'll find the priorities are different. What they do as a first project, it's more of a learning ground and so on. But when the business defines the map of the areas to play in for AI to look for performance increases, that's your go-to in the process. And out of this comes a ranked list of all of the pain points and what is the business impact if we improve this pain point, okay? And you can then make that a public or an open shared document, and that gives you transparency on the process. So people are saying, okay, well, why are we looking at AI? And then you realize, well, actually, it's because we want to increase our customer support quality. We want to turn around tenders more quickly, okay? Another example, we got called into an accounting services company by the owner. We did that short, medium, and long-term research, and it was grim reading, okay, because accounting is being encroached by AI and automation very strongly. We assembled the stakeholders, we got that register of opportunities together, and at that point they decided to double down. If we're going to be squeezed on margins because of our continuing costs, then we need to look at automation to reduce those costs, but we want to be customer service first. So they picked items on that would improve their whole customer service profile. So we've done a whole bunch of follow-on automation work with them. Well, they've done things like they've got a bot. So if a customer rings in and says, can you invoice my client ABC for the end of the month at this amount, the bot will create the invoice. And likewise, their internal account managers can use the same thing just to avoid all the heavy lifting. They're doing fraud detection on bank statements, just to point out to clients where they could run foul with the revenue, okay, in case they get audited. And there's even a way of finding what are potential cost savings. For example, if you've got your phone with one company and your broadband with another, it can spot opportunities for cost savings. It's all about customer service. That was their prioritization. Okay, the next bit, and this is where we start to get a little bit more technical. So you've got the map of the areas to play in, okay, that are going to be the highest impact. Now you need to work out, is AI actually going to be feasible at doing something to improve that situation? So this is like a science experiment, but the very first conversation you have is you've got to agree what the criteria of success is going to be from that proof of concept. So let's say you want to cut your tender response time down by 30%, then a measure of success might be AI is able to turn around a draft proposal, which is 70% complete. If it's predictive maintenance or something like that, that's a lot easier to quantify. We want to see predictions with an accuracy rate of 80% measured against this year's maintenance incidents. Okay. This is the first point where you'll actually try and apply some kind of AI solution to the data that you have. So it's the first time you test the data readiness. You've probably heard about this throughout the day. It's all about the data for AI. This is when you get your hands on the data. It's your maintenance history, it's your library of proposals and so on. And then you're able to measure the efficacy of AI to actually work against that success measurement. And why you do this is proof and trust. Okay, at this point, if you've already gone through that whole framework approach, people trust the process. They trust the experiment. There's no arguing over the outcomes of the experiment. It's scored very simply on one metric. You get the learnings. You might find out your data isn't in good shape. Therefore, that becomes a piece of work you need to do to enable AI in that area. That becomes a cost for the project. But likewise, you have a measurement of the success of AI. So that becomes, in effect, a business case to further investments. So these are like micro investments you make before you throw the bigger money into scaling AI. A couple of examples. So this one here, we worked with a furniture manufacturer. It was all about palletization, which is all algorithmically solvable. But what we did was we topped and tailed it. So the AI would make recommendations as to how to pack pallets, come up with diagrams and so on. Out of this comes a manufacturing sequence that goes back, so they've got just-in-time manufacturing, and they're able to forward project for delivery optimization. But we also took feedback, so people could give English language feedback, and the algorithm would adjust. Down here is a hedge fund. They had spent a couple of $1 million on a library of company information. This allowed the analysts to just verbally say what they looked for, whether it's searching for company candidates, investment candidates, or bad ones in their own portfolio. Predictive maintenance, this is one of the easiest ones to score because you can always test prediction on past histories. That was an aerospace company. And this was a financial metrics platform. And we basically interviewed all the consultants, harvested their brain, and made those insights available within the platform. That started off thinking they were going to do a support bot, but it turned into a virtual consultant. And that's the framework. So it's not about the AI itself. It's not about technology solution trying to find a problem. It's actually about the process of, number one, getting leadership to a point where they've got informed permission. Business first prioritization always. Successful experiments, which are trusted. And dare I say it, at that point now you're into what I would call a standard transformation. We're going to go from this version of the process to this version of the process. So if I leave you with anything, it's this. If you remember here, we had the Northern Ireland peace process. I remember John Hume saying when they all first met, they couldn't agree on anything. So then they decided, let's negotiate the process. Same approach. Okay, those are our clients. Those are all the areas in the world that we've done work. We've been doing it for 30 years, starting with lean and now into digitization, green and AI. And that's it. There's more info on our website with case studies. Contact us for office hours if you want to have a chat about how AI has been adopted within your org. And don't forget the killer robots. Let's make our last years above ground our most productive and easiest. Thank you. You're welcome.